Hi there, good morning. Now, what kind of a week are you looking forward to? A busy one? Quiet one? Does a new week come with new responsibilities, or is it business as usual? Whatever your plans for the week ahead, I pray that the next 4 days are productive. Now, what makes a productive week anyway? How do you measure these things? How do you determine at the end of a week whether you've been productive or not? Is it by the number of tasks you've accomplished? What should a productive use of your time look like? Well, here's my highly subjective, open to dispute definition. Productivity is a measure of how well you use your time. Do you agree? Disagree? Or agree to disagree? Okay, let's come back to that later. Time. Time is the scarcest resource in the world. We are all given exactly 24 hours every day. How much you can do with that time determines how productive you are. There is, however, a misconception about time. Some people think that we all have equal amounts of time, and so we all have an equal chance at being productive. This is not true. Each day may contain 24 hours, but we don't all have an equal amount of days to live, now do we? The other day in church, the pastor said something that chilled my spine. I'm going to paraphrase. He said, "Humans are like ice cubes taken out of the freezer. With every passing minute, we are melting." How true. Now, look at your face in the mirror this morning. Is this the way you looked when you were 5 years old? Why do women spend more time getting ready as they get older? Isn't it because there are more blemishes to patch up? When men lose their hair and start to stoop, are those all not signs that they're melting? Now, here's the thing. We're not all melting at the same rate either. Some of us have less time than others. The problem is none of us knows how much time we have before we melt completely. Now, what bothers me, however, is the fact that we don't seem to realize that we're melting. It seems we take it for granted that we will live forever. We won't. God knows best in all things, but the scary truth is that any of you watching us this morning could be taken away from us before this very year ends. It could be you. It could be me. Now, I certainly pray for you every morning. I don't want to lose a single one of you, but sadly, it's not up to me. This is why I've started to get even more afraid of the way we all act as if we will live forever. We don't know how much time we have left, which means we don't have time to waste. When I became ill and was forced to start drinking water again, several years ago, it was difficult. But one of the things I did to make it easier was to pour my water over lots of ice cubes. It chilled the water, made it more pleasant to drink. And whenever I finished drinking a glass of water, I would look at the remaining cubes and think, what a waste. So instead of leaving them to melt without a purpose, I would pour more water over them and drink it up as well. I would keep doing this, pouring less water over the ice each time, because the more they melted, the less able they were to chill a full glass of water. As humans, we tend to do the opposite, right? We postpone everything till later. We think we have all the time in the world, so we push all the daunting tasks to some imaginary later date without realizing that we may not have a later date. And even if we do, we would have melted even more by then than we have today. And so we won't be able to do as much, just as the melted ice cubes are not able to chill as much water. So why give your future weaker self more work to do and leave your present stronger self sitting idle and picking your teeth? If today was your last day, what would you do with it? That should be the question you must ask yourself every morning, because you don't have time. Why are you not starting to live your dream today? That is what you must ask yourself this morning, because you don't have time. When are you going to call him or her and apologize? That is your question for today, because you don't have time. All you can afford is one bag of cement. Is that not a start? This is what you must answer today, because, my dear friend, you don't have time. Productivity is a measure of how well you use your time. Do you agree now? My dear friends, it's the beginning, it's the second day of a new week. You're blessed to be alive in it. Live every day like it's your last and do the heavy lifting today. Fill your glass today because you're strong enough to chill it. Fill your glass today so that tomorrow you'll only have a half glass to deal with. Fill your glass today because you have been given today. It's all you have, so act accordingly. My name is Kojo Yankson, and tomorrow is not promised, so I can't waste today. Good morning, Ghana.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM News. I am Apita CBD. Now, the Electoral Commission Monday announced it has disqualified 5 of the 17 presidential aspirants who filed to contest the 2020 presidential elections, clearing 12 persons to stand as candidates. The 5 disqualified include 2 independent aspirants and flag bearers of the People's Action Party, United Front Party and the United Progressive Party. EC Chairperson Jean Mensah explained the 5 aspirants were disqualified because they were fraudulently endorsed by unqualified subscribers or forged signatures of some of the electorate. She also indicated the Commission has referred the issue of possible forgeries to the CID of the Ghana Police Service for investigations.
The 8th candidate to present his nomination forms to the Commission was Mr. Kofi Kranting. There were no IT issues with his nomination forms. However, the technical team noticed that 19 persons who had allegedly supported the CPP candidate had also supported Mr. Kofi Kranting. A further check revealed that these persons had not endorsed the candidate. Indeed, the CPP wrote to the Commission about the issue, indicating that these persons were executives of their party. The technical team found that the signatures of these 19 persons were fake, and the matter was referred to the CID department of the Ghana Police Service. The CID did confirm that these signatures were fake. The candidate has therefore been disqualified, and the Commission would forward this issue to the police for further action. Mr. Kofi Gane was the 12th person to file his nominations with the Commission. There were no IT issues. However, the technical team found that a number of the signatures of many supporters followed the same pattern. And this was the signatures were referred to the CID division of the Ghana Police Service. And the police has confirmed that indeed a good number of the signatures were fake. The candidate has therefore been disqualified and will therefore not contest the 2020 presidential election. Mr. Akwesi Odike was the 13th person to file his nominations with the Commission. There were no IT issues. However, the technical team noticed that the handwritings were similar and the signatures were also similar, and referred the matter to the CID division of the Ghana Police Service. The CID division confirmed that indeed a number of the signatures were fake, and the candidate has therefore been disqualified and will not contest in the 2020 presidential election. Mr. Kwesi Busumbru of the PAP was the 14th person to file his nomination forms with the Commission. There were no IT issues. However, the candidate failed to provide supporters for some districts in the Greater Accra region and had incomplete data for a number of his supporters. Indeed, some of the supporters were not registered voters in the area of authority of the district assembly to which they endorsed his candidature, and there are a good number of them. The technical team also noted that the same persons, although they had endorsed for him on the 4 separate forms, had different signatures. And what this means is that if you look at the forms, there were 4 forms, and so if you have a person called Amasewa, her signature appeared on the 4 forms, his signature as appearing on the 4 forms were different. And this was in the case of Ashanti and Northeast regions. This was referred to the CID division of the Ghana Police Service, and they noted that the signatures were fake. And he has been disqualified from participating and contesting in the 2020 presidential election. The 15th candidate to present his nomination forms to the commission was Mr. Ajeni Mboating. There were no tech IT issues with his form. However, a good number of three of the persons who supported his candidature have denied endorsing the candidate's nomination, and the commission has a letter to that effect. The commission referred the matter to the CID division of the Ghana Police Service, and they confirmed that the signatures were fake. He has therefore been disqualified from contesting the 2020 presidential election.
Madam Jean Mensah, however, revealed the commission would refund the 100,000 filing fees to the disqualified aspirants.
To the aspiring presidential candidates who did not make this process, we wish you better luck next time. Your filing fees of 100,000 cedis will be refunded to you. To you, our distinguished citizens and our friends from the media, we thank you for believing in us and for walking this journey with us. We pledge that we will conduct ourselves in truth and integrity and organize a fair, credible, transparent, peaceful election come 7th December 2020.
Reacting to allegations which she believes is aimed at discrediting the Commission's integrity, Madam Jean Mensah asked persons who have issues with the electoral process to raise them with the Commission or cease the attacks.
The EC can never rig an election. The processes are transparent, they are credible, they are tight, and they are accountable. And we cannot for any reason have a flawed election with this kind of process that has been hailed globally. I think even in advanced democracies, this transparency does not exist. Herein lies the transparency and openness of our process, making it difficult for anybody to rig an election or for any process to be flawed. Can anybody here or can anybody in the public tell us at which point of this transparent process the EC can rig the election? We use this platform to call on all political parties and stakeholders who have genuine concerns with the processes outlined to raise them in the full glare of the public. Once we as a commission are informed about the weaknesses and gaps in the processes outlined, we will take immediate steps to address these gaps, close and seal the gaps, and report same to the public in an open, transparent, and accountable manner. Until then, we entreat the naysayers to cease their onslaught of trying to discredit a thorough and credible process, and their onslaught of trying to discredit a commission that has been open and transparent and accountable to the people that it serves, that is the good people of this country. If for nothing at all, the current commission has opened up all its processes to the public and removed the cloaks of secrecy that shrouded our activities and operations in the past. We have laid bare our processes for all to see.
Mama V and Benjamin will go into this more during the news review. Now, away from that, the NDC parliamentary candidate for Agona West, Paul Ofori-Amoah, is currently in police custody over an alleged plot to assassinate the gender minister. Mr. Ofori-Amoah is said to have admitted issuing 2 checks found in the hotel room of some suspects arrested in connection with the crime. He's been charged with preparation to commit crime to wit murder and abatement to commit crime to wit murder. Central Region Police PRO Irene Sewapong has been interacting with the Central Region correspondent Richard Kojo Nyako.
Today, 19th of October 2020, Honorable Cynthia Mamle Morrison, MP for Agona West, has made a formal complaint to police that the 4 men who were arrested at the hotel in Swedru by police on the 17th October 2020 has a plot to kill him. Complainant's statement has been taken from the honorable member and investigations are ongoing. Today, 19th October 2020, the 4 suspects who were arrested at a hotel in Swedru has been remanded into police custody by Circuit Court 1, Cape Coast, by Her Honor Mrs. Dorinda Smith Atta to reappear on the 30th of October 2020. They were cautioned on the following charges. 1. Preparation to commit crime, to wait murder. 2. Carrying offensive weapon. Again, today, police invited the parliamentary candidates, Mr. Paul Ofori Amwa, who has also reported at the regional headquarters. And he has admitted of issuing the 2 bank checks that were picked by police at the hotel when a search was conducted in the rooms and also on the suspects. The parliamentary candidate is currently at the regional CID and is assisting police with investigations. His caution statement has been taken on 1. Abetment to commit crime, to wait murder, and also preparation to commit crime, that is murder. The Central Regional Police wants to assure the general public that investigations are ongoing on the 2 issues that we are investigating. Again, we also want to appeal to the general public that any information connected to the 4 persons who were arrested on suspicion at Swedru on the 17th of October 2020, the general public should contact police on 18555.
Now, the Ghana Cocoa Board has commenced investigations into Joy News' expose on illegal renting of certification license by some license buying companies and farmer society groups to businessmen. It follows revelations that one could rent a cocoa certificate for as high as 1 million cedis. These underhand dealings make the farmer poorer, defeating the purpose of the cocoa sustainability program. Let's take a listen to excerpts of the Robbing the Poor documentary by investigative journalist Kwete Nate.
To ascertain how deep this canker is in this industry, I request to meet another cocoa interest group willing to sell their certificate to me. Hope introduces me to officials of Farmer Base Association Cocopa, its executive director Fred Amponsa and Wan Ibrahim. We then shift the conversation on the shady details of using their certificate to export cocoa to chocolate producers.
Apart from, I'm asking this question to be clear. Apart from we giving you the lances, what other role are we going to play?
Hope admits that this act is illegal, but for him, in business, interest matters more than standards.
Since he's paying for management of the certificate for you, I don't think it should be 50. It should have a little higher. That's why I was mentioning 40%. 40% coming to the copper if it's your business.
Really, it's not. Because they have yes.
Because like he indicated, because like he indicated, if we are taking care of the cost of management of the
group, and they are still buying.
Yeah, I think 40-60 should be fair.
It will cost the team 1 million Ghana cedis to own the certificate of the Cocoa Farmer Based Association. The executives presented us with these 2 certificates as proof of how serious they were in engaging the team. To industry players, this issue should be a matter of concern. Frank Jobber of Cocoa Merchant again.
If you are talking about certification, you cannot sublet your certification activities to other LBCs to do. If the auditors come, they make sure the LBC that is even into the program is audited, particularly if you are doing identity preserved sustainability project.
Speaking to Joy News in an interview, Deputy Cocoa Board CEO in charge of operations, Dr. Emmanuel Opoku, said a committee will be set up to establish the extent of the malpractice. He also added that licensed buying companies found culpable and the expose will not be allowed to ship certified cocoa to the financiers abroad.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm speaking to MFR.
Exactly so, rightly so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, MFR, thanks a lot. In fact, we are shocked to hear this kind of treatment that some LBCs are given to farmers. I recall that not long ago this year, we have started sanitizing this whole system of sustainability cocoa and certification and traceable cocoa with the creation of foundation. That foundation is managed by Cocoa Board and the off-taker as well as the LBC. Okay, so that's the off-taker's rep here. The idea of the foundation is to make sure that all the premiums are paid into the foundation's account so that it will be paid, to be distributed to the beneficiaries properly. Now we have a group of farmers who are kind of resisting this foundation, depositing the premiums into the foundation account on the excuse that they are receiving the premiums directly. They've agreed with the off-taker to receive the premiums directly. So this development is just giving me a second thought about the whole thing. In the first place, the companies involved, we are going to stop any cocoa this year, starting this year, whether the cocoa was produced as certified or not. So long as the company has been identified as, involving in this kind of malpractice, we are going to stop all the cocoa.
That's it for the AM News with me, Mapisa Sibidi. The AM show continues with Mama V and Benjamin. Enjoy.
Thank you for joining us on the review segment of our show. We will look at the newspapers. We will look at what's making headlines also on myjoyonline.com. Hopefully we can bring you some international news. Benjamin is here with me. We will do that. But first, we want to talk about the disqualified presidential hopefuls. Ben, there's a statement that's been issued by one of them already. You were mentioning to us as we opened the show.
And indeed, it's Marek who's actually issued that statement, Ghana for Ghana. And there's a whole lot that is spoken of in that statement. I'm sure we're going to be showing it on the screen shortly. But, he talks about, the statement talks about the reasons for the EC's disqualification. In fact, there's a video also in circulation concerning that. So we'll get into the details as we proceed from here.
Yeah, but here are the candidates. Not candidates yet. They wanted to be, but it didn't happen. So we have Kofi Kranting there, an independent aspirant. There's also Marek there that Ben talks about. We will share his statement in the course of this program. There's Akwesi Adai Odike representing the UPP, Kwesi Busubru representing PAP. PAP. And then from the UFP, Nana Ajinim Boateng. We're yet to see this announcement, just came yesterday. And so we wait to see if any of the candidates would take a step further to challenge their disqualification. And that is yet to be seen, I guess. All will be known today. But here are the qualified candidates on the screen. Alfred Kwame Esiedu Walker, an independent candidate, will be on the ballots this year. Of course, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, representing the NPP, and Christian Kwabena Andrews is also on the 2020 ballots. We've got Madam Bridget Akosia Jogbanuku representing the PPP, the former president flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, and then I guess my pick, Madam Ike Adonko, representing the GFP on the ballots this year. Making it this time around is Nana Konadu Agyemang Rawlings, of course, representing the NDP, and from the APC's Hassan Ayariga and Ivor Kwabena Greenstreet there representing the CPP. So there you have it. We've got 12 of them. Originally, 17 were aspiring, but we now know that 5 of them have been disqualified. So these are your candidates as presented by the Electoral Commission. Let's see if somebody is going to fight it through, at least one of those disqualified, fight it through, and then we'll know if they will make it till the ballots. But Benjamin is going to take us through this statement that's been issued by one of the disqualified aspirant, Mark Kofi Ghani.
Well, so let's quickly do this. There actually is that press release from Marek, and it says, so for immediate release, Ghana for Ghana's initial response to Electoral Commission's decision. And it says, dear comrades and press, we are disappointed in the Electoral Commission's decision to disqualify Marek Kofi Ghani, independent aspirant. Ghana deserves a better agenda for the upcoming 2020 presidential election. As a matter of fact, the Ghana for Ghana team filed its nomination forms on October 8, 2020, which was within the stipulated time frame required by the Electoral Commission. It goes on to say, per the rules and guidelines of the EC and reiterated at the October 2nd, 2020 meeting, it was communicated that aspirants will be contacted immediately following any discrepancies concerning their filing in time to allow them time to correct any anomalies. Unfortunately, neither Mr. Ghani nor any member of the Ghana for Ghana team was contacted since October the 8th, 2020 to inform us of any issues or alleged forgery as has been put forth by the EC on October 19, 2020. At this time, we wish to inform all of our Ghana for Ghana and Ghana Deserves Better members and supporters to remain calm as we explore all the options available to us in order to resolve this matter. We remain committed to the Ghana Deserves Better agenda and will do all within our power to get on the ballot to allow Ghanaians to decide the way forward on election day. Sincerely, the Ghana for Ghana team. And that's the end of the release there. Very interesting release, actually. There's also, that video that has been put out that we're going to be bringing to them shortly. But very interesting dynamics there. And of course, he feels hard done by the decision of the Electoral Commission. It's interesting. Ghana had this booklet, 7 Dwarfs and a Bridge. I think it's something all of us should read. So you can tell what he wanted for Ghana. And I think he's taken this pretty hard. But let's find out what exactly he's been saying in that video.
We have heard from the news being put out, or the comments being put out in the media, that there were some irregularities and that the candidates themselves are in the know and they have been informed. As I state here, we have not at any point in the last 1 week or the day that was left for the filing process to be complete heard from the EC. We've received no calls, we've received no written nominations, we've received no emails, absolutely nothing. And we have provided all these details in case the EC needed to get us. And so what I will say now is that we still believe there are ways to solve these issues. And so we will be in touch with the EC to gain some further clarification as to what exactly they find wrong with our nomination and what exactly is the way forward. And depending on that conversation with the EC, we would carry out any further steps we need to carry. As a matter of fact, we are in the process of ensuring that any of those further steps that we need to carry do get carried at the right time so that we can correct some of these things. So all I have to say to everybody who is listening is that a big thank you for the massive support you have given to this campaign. A big thank you to the support that we will expect that you continue to give to this campaign until this is all resolved and this is all done and dusted.
Well, that is Marek Kofi Ghana, independent presidential candidate, hopeful. Well, as of now, it appears the Electoral Commission has thwarted whatever move he would have wanted to make. It remains to be seen whether he will take the matter up legally in court to get back on the ballot, Mamavi. So
yes,
interesting development.
Sounds very disappointing if indeed they didn't receive any communication from the Electoral Commission, and the first time they heard that they had issues was just yesterday at the press briefing when we were all told of the matter. So I mean,
I would feel hard done. I would feel hard done if there had not been any communication, because then it would appear as though there were some level of unfairness. But of course, we must also hear from the other side, the Electoral Commission side, to find out what exactly happened and maybe what may have precipitated their actions.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess now we can get into the newspapers. So we've got the Ghanaian Times newspaper, starts here. Obviously, this news is making the front page. EC's declaration for December polls. President Akufo-Addo Mahama, 10 others cleared, 5 aspirants disqualified, others referred to police. Also, late Professor Bennett's murder suspect dead. We talked about this briefly yesterday. We'll see the angle of the Ghanaian Times today. Editor, 4 others win GJA awards. Husband strangles wife, 30 to death. And the story will tell you that he also attempted to kill himself. But that he wasn't successful with that. He's at the Boko Presbyterian Hospital. The story didn't say why he strangled his wife to death. In the center spread, of course, these stories in detail, but on the back page, Stanbic Bank supports flood victims in 11 northern region communities. Also, Sanitation Ministry gives GGA dust bins for media houses. That's it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Ben, we'll do the Daily Graphic?
Yes, I'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper this morning. It says COVID-19 is real, wear your face mask. I'm starting with that because it appears a lot of us are throwing caution to the wind, so let's take stock of that. But race to Jubilee House, EC clears 12, Akufo-Addo Mahama in rematch. Sounds like a boxing, political boxing match coming our way on December 7. Auditors scrutinize Domelevo's travels. And there's also key suspects' death won't derail case. That's according to the police. It's on the back of that, murder case with regard to Professor Yao Bene. But you go to page 5, a bit of international news there. You can check it out when you grab a copy of the paper. Kenyan MP in court for murder. Mauritius PM hits out at UK over Chagos Islands control. And then Nigeria state imposes curfew amid jailbreak. When you go to the back page of the Daily Graphic, Sanitation Ministry presents 370 bins to the GJA and then Ghana, Germany to build capacity of TVET teachers. Mama V.
Yeah. Let's do the Finder newspaper. Front page of the Finder. Che Mensah Bonso cannot be defeated. That's according to the minority leader, his colleague on the other side, Haruna Idrisu. President inaugurates 7-member RTI Commission board. Ghana ranked 3rd best globally in effective COVID-19 management. EC case 12 throws out 5 or 3 women aspirants to be on the ballots. Also, President Akufo-Addo launches 2017-2018 census on agriculture report after 33-year break. Let's not spill blood over political differences. That's a call by Professor Opoko Ajimai. And Dr. Gideon Boako donates pickup motorbikes to Tano North. That's what you find by way of what's on the front page of the Finder newspaper.
Well, Mama V, let me just take a quick peek as well at the center spread of the Daily Graphic right before I move on to the Daily Guide newspaper. And it says Rawlings' family calls on president. You know, they've officially informed His Excellency the President about the sad passing of his mother. And that is also their details in the center spread. That is page 24. Help reposition small-scale mining. Professor Yanka urges UMAT and UN commends Ghana for SDG promotion. Let's move on to the Daily Guide newspaper. It says, EC boots out 5 candidates, 12 head for December 7. And NPP MP was target for murder. And it has to do with that sad incident, dastardly actually, with regard to Eko Kwanzaa Hayford of the NPP, Infantiman, member of Parliament. Then NDC, we pastor dodges police. And then Zongo development boss rewarded. For repaying Fie rejects Dankwa library claims. Those are some of the stories there. When you go to the center spread, some business news, economy-related news. Fitch forecast 72.8% debt to GDP by year end. Photo there of Kenneth Oriata, finance minister. And on the back page of that paper, I am a believer I will return better. Mama, we've been talking football in the English Premier League, and Virgil van Dijk, defender for the champion, says he will return from his injury. Then Rooney mad at COVID-19, friend. So those are some of the stories there. And why Partey kept his Europe move to his chest? You should find out details in the Daily Guide newspaper.
All right, let's follow with the Daily Dispatch. Front page of the Dispatch. NPP likely to win presidential election in Central Region. Okay, so this is attributed to GR Bureau. Full stories on page 12. KGO Group, Stanbic Bank's most outstanding customer. EC boss replies John Mahama, there will be no flawed elections. And Fulanis appeal to one of their own, Mrs. Samira Baumia, help restore our citizenship. That detail is in page 11 of the paper when you grab it. They've also got analysis of the 12 qualified presidential candidates. Well, they're advertising for tomorrow's paper. That's it for the Daily Dispatch.
Well, let's move on to the Daily Statesman. And President tours Volta and OT regions. Then 12 cleared for 2020 presidential race. And Baumia schools Mahama on Akufo-Addo's achievements. When you go to the center spread, rural banks charged to reposition themselves amid the coronavirus. But here's something I find interesting. It appears on the back pages of both the Daily Guide and the Daily Statesman. The stories are the same, the Virgil van Dijk story as well as the Arsenal boss revealing why Partey did not start against Manchester City. The BNFT is also here. Ghana Post MD wins public sector's most outstanding CEO of the year. And then EU anti-money laundering blacklist comes with no ban. That's an EU ambassador confirming that. The country is only under enhanced vigilance. That's the clarification there. Farmers said to benefit from Greenfield's organic fertilizer. And those are some of the stories on the banner front page of the BNFT. On the back page, Stanbic Bank names KGL as most outstanding customer, and Toyota opens branch in Tamale. Mama V.
All right, so we're done telling you about at least the headlines in the papers that we have today. We're just going to highlight some of the stories, and this one is of interest. It's in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. The headline on the front page says, late Professor Benes murder suspect dead. We're getting a bit more details in terms of what happened to this person who had confessed to the killing of Professor Bene. And if you go inside the story, which is on page 12, it's in the center spread actually of the paper, details there. It says that the Accra Regional Police Command Crime Officer, Chief Superintendent Adamu Seidu, confirmed the incidents of the death of the suspects. But he goes on to say that the suspect had complained of not feeling well last Thursday and was rushed to the police hospital and was treated and discharged. The crime officer said he was sent to the hospital again on Friday but died on admission at the hospital on Saturday. They're going to carry out the autopsy to determine the cause of death. As of the time of filing this report, according to the paper, arrangements were underway to inform the family of his demise. Wamba, a cleaner of the late law professor, and 3 other domestic workers were arrested in connection with his murder last month. The 3 were discharged after an Accra Circuit court found no case against them. So it gives you a good background of this incident. I think yesterday the conclusion was we wait to see how his death would affect the ongoing case, whether or not it would have an impact on the case, or we can bring closure to it and find justice for the late law professor. So yeah, that's my pick in the Ghanaian Times. If I may just chip in on that particular story. Indeed, the police has also been communicating, and they say this is not going to really impact, the process of investigating, this case, because there is a second accomplice who was apprehended in Tema. So hopefully the impact is not going to be so much that we can get into. So that's just a bit of an addition there. Okay, great. Any other stories you want to look at?
Well, I'll do this one. The banner headline, auditors scrutinize Domelevo's travels. That's with the Daily Graphic newspaper, of course. Daniel Yao Domelevo in the picture. And it talks about the years 2017 to 2020 and an audit of the foreign travels of the Auditor General. Now, a private firm appointed by the board, K&A Accounting Services, is undertaking the audit, which will also cover other top management staff of the audit service. Documents that the Daily Graphic actually has cited indicate the private firm is expected to audit 2.1 million Ghana cedis, between that and $199,000 spent on foreign travels by the Auditor General and top management staff. And if you go into the details of the Constitution or the law, Article 1893B of the 1992 Constitution says that the board had the power to make regulations through a constitutional instrument for the effective and efficient administration of the audit service. How does that fit exactly into these sums spent? And some are already raising hue and cry about the Auditor General being targeted again. So this, for me, it makes for interesting reading. Some have said there's bad blood between, Domelevo and the audit service, between Domelevo and, even the leadership of the country, so to speak. Where this is coming from, but others will tell you that this is mere, procedure being followed, the processes being followed. Maybe we should speak to Domelevo, find out what his take is on this.
Well, he's actually reacted. He reacted to the fact that the board had contracted a private audit firm to audit. He said that was unconstitutional, but the audit, as in the board, also strongly defended its position and said that it was within its mandate. So it's interesting. I guess we have to wait to find out the findings of this audit's. This private audit's work, I guess. But Mr. Domelevo has insisted that it's only Parliament that can appoint an auditor to audit the work of the Auditor General.
But don't you find it curious that there is all this wrangling between an Auditor General and the audit service and all this friction? Don't you find it a bit
the board itself, whose chairman has also been the Auditor General in this country before. I guess that's the interest for me. But it's still an ongoing matter, issues with the Auditor General. Let's do myjoyonline.com real quick. Let's find out what's on our page. Police call on public to volunteer information over plot to kill Aguna West Member of Parliament. So that's we brought you details of that in our AM News. Some updates there. EC entreats naysayers to cease their onslaughts. Marek Ghani disappointed in disqualification by Electoral Commission. Of course, we shared details with you on election 2020. 5 presidential aspirants disqualified. John Dumelo draws large crowd during campaign launch at Ayawaso West Wagon. Robbing the poor. How LBCs are illegally renting certification licenses to businessmen. We know Cocoa Board has reacted to this latest documentary investigative piece by Kwete Nate. There's the full text of the EC's speech yesterday and the disqualification of the presidential aspirant. If you want to know the reasons, you can read details. And then lawyer demands independent inquiry into Womba's death. That's the suspect that we just gave you an update on. He died at the police hospital. We're told that he had confessed to killing the law professor at Legon. Now his lawyer is demanding an independent inquiry into his death. All right, so that's it. You can, if any story interests you, you can grab it from the newsstands or you can go to myjoyonline.com. We will leave it here and take a breather. We'll come back with sports. One of the biggest stories still today is the fact that 8 Black Stars players have contracted COVID-19 just after playing differently. So Rick Kwamfofo will be here to give us the very latest on this and more.
So let's now move to some Ghana football, where owner and bankroller of King Faisal, Alhaji Grusa, has revealed his team would undergo COVID-19 test ahead of the new season. Now, despite commencing of training about 2 weeks ago, King Faisal are still yet to conduct the mandatory test. He was speaking to my colleague Delali Atiase of Love FM.
You see, and it's a far different. Okay. But some of them are in the team.
So, Alhaji, from what you've seen at the training and their response to training, you think that by the time we start the league, they'll be ready?
Even now, we need them to push them for the stamina.
Okay.
That's the report from the coach. Because of that, I told them no anyone should recommend any player again. Okay. The coach told me. He said, only me. I said, me, I don't have any place. But me, if anyone call me, I have a good player, I will tell him, come, coach, to see him. Because if I rejected the person, if he get the good one, he won't bring it to me. Yes, sir. That is King Faisal.
Okay. I mean, one of the requirements for us to start training is that the boys should go through their COVID test and all that. The government one has not started, but as a club, what have you done? I mean,
we done some of them. We done the distance, but we didn't get the number. You know, we are not like Kumasi, Asante Kotoko, Accra, House of. I think Kumasi, Asante Kotoko started last two weeks. They started last.
That was an update on King Faisal. It's just 24 days to the commencement of the new Ghana Premier League season. But moving away from that, 40 Ghanaian players have been selected to play for top European clubs in Europe and South America after a 2-day scouting program. The event was organized by F5 Sports Arena, a Madrid-based agency, local representatives, and they have that in OK Sports Ghana Limited. My colleague Asari Bediako has more in the following report.
The dream of every young Ghanaian footballer is to seek greener pastures. Many locally based footballers who fail to secure deals with Premier League clubs in the country are not able to reach their full potential. Their talents pale into insignificance. However, F5 Sports Arena, a renowned Madrid-based agency, is eager to change the narrative. After 2 days of comprehensive scouting, 40 Ghanaian players between the ages of 15 and 25 have been selected. They'll be transferred to top European and South American clubs who believe in player development. Eduardo Sangrario, president of F5 Sports Arena, reveals why they chose Ghana when they decided to visit Africa for the first time.
We know about several players, professionals, that they have a good conditions, and Ghana is one of the best references in Africa. For us, it's one of the first places to come, because we know that here are very good players with athletic conditions, and to give more power to the European football. OK
Sports Ghana Limited, one of the country's biggest scouting agencies, is the local representatives of F5 Sports Arena. Coach Eric Entry Ofori, an expert in football talent discovery and development and president of OK Sports Ghana Limited, underscores the importance of the 2-day scouting event.
We have learned that it is not a very good player that can play in every area. So they are done their research and they have seen that, you know what, these guys, they can play in Europe. These guys, they can play in Brazil. These guys, they can play in other areas. So that is very important. formally, we just pick a player and we say that go to Germany. Meanwhile, he is not a German player. And we didn't know until this time. So they are here to check it. So after the exercise that they have gone through, they realize that, oh, this part of players can go to Belgium. This group of players can go to Brazil. This player can go to Germany. Because Germans, they need huge, strong, athletic guys. Spain, they need that flair. Italian, they need that robust guys. So these are things that we have all come to see, which is very important.
The two-day scouting event came off at the ultra-modern Medina AstroTurf. Member of Parliament of the Medina constituency, Boniface Abubakar Siddiq, who was guest of honor, believes the scouting program will produce more talent for the various national teams.
Now that Ghana, all the time, every World Cup we make appearance, we want to train our talents, train our young ones who have the potential. And we must have a basket or a pool of footballers. At any point in time, we can go there and pick them. And this is one of the reasons. And Medina, anytime the national team is picking players, at least we get not between 3 to 5 players coming from Medina.
After a successful scouting program, the partnership between F5 Sports Arena and OK Sports Ghana Limited is expected to grow from strength to strength.
We would be wrapping up the sports here, but right before we go, Mama V will be joining me right in studio to talk about the latest case in the Black Stars camp, and that was Caleb Kuban confirmed yesterday, now making it 8 players and officials.
Because I think yesterday when we were talking, and it was just Andre?
Yeah, it was just Jordan Ayew.
Jordan,
joined,
yes.
The 6 that were there already, and Kuban was confirmed as well. But it's...
So I've heard people say that the GFA had been negligent, they had not taken precautions, but I've also heard the GFA also strongly defend the processes that they put in place, and considering the fact that they were playing this in Turkey. This was a foreign land, so they couldn't have been negligent.
Yeah, and for the GFA, they released a statement a couple of days ago stating that they observed all protocols and ensured that players were tested 24 hours before a game and 1 hour before a game. And they did that for both games. For the Qatar game, they did not do the 1 hour test. But after the matches, there wasn't also any test. So you couldn't have possibly said that when the players came in, I had them at negative. And when they were going, I had them at negative. So I think that maybe that was a little bit of a gap in there. And perhaps the part where there might be a little bit of negligence was the fact that the Black Stars officials knew that Ghana, were going to play Mali, and Mali had 4 players testing positive the day before the game. Now, it could have still been called off, like how Iran decided to call their match off against Mali. But the match still went on. And after that, we've had positive cases just coming in and coming in.
And this is not just players, there are officials as well.
Yeah, there is Abu Al-Hassan as well. And the last official has not been confirmed yet.
Okay.
But we're told that for Abu Al-Hassan, he's still isolating and being treated in Turkey. And so it's a difficult situation for Ghana. But I think looking forward, it does make it really difficult because coaches are not happy.
Yeah.
It's a very crucial period.
So this could have implications whether or not they're going to easily release our players to come and play, not a friendly, but a more competitive game next month.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because you took the risk for a friendly, and now you need them next month for the real competitive matches, the qualifiers. And against Sudan, I think that you find it very difficult for these coaches to be releasing their players to come down to play for Ghana as well. So hopefully, we move on from this and prove to the coaches that we can actually take care of the players when they come. Because remember, it's the teams that pay the players each week. So technically, it's almost as if they are their property.
Yeah.
So you have to take care of them when they're released.
Even when they're injured, they get the best of care, we know, from their clubs. Well, we'll leave it here. Log on to myjohnline.com. We've got plenty of news. Click on the sports session and enjoy a lot more sports stories. There'll be plenty more later today at 2 p.m. Orico, thanks a lot. Stay with us. When we come back, we're talking about those who made it to the 2020 ballot, at least for now, the candidates that have been cleared by the Electoral Commission and the 5 others who unfortunately have been disqualified. We're counting down to the 2020 general elections. It's 48 days more to that day. This is your election headquarters. Just yesterday on Monday, the Electoral Commission came out with a list of candidates making it on the ballot this year to compete for our vote to become president. They disqualified 5 others. On the back of the latest news, we're speaking to Dr. Kwesi Amache-Boateng, who is a senior lecturer at the History and Political Science Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology for some analysis. He joins us via Zoom for this conversation. Dr. Amache-Boateng, a very good morning to you. Thank you for your time here on the AM show on Joy News.
Good morning.
Great to have you. First of all, I think it will be good to get your reaction to that announcement of those who have made it to the ballots and the 5 others who have been disqualified. We have 12 of them making it this time around. What's your reaction to it?
Let me say good morning to your viewers. Actually, for our democracy, after this number of years, to still have so many people coming in to compete for the office of the president, it's a little, it makes the system a little unwieldy. And you want to know whether the EC's own criteria for qualification, even for them to acknowledge a body as a political party to participate in the electoral process, you want to know whether they meet the criteria, the need for them to have, a national character, meaning that the national officers should come across the country. The offices that they need to have in the regions, the districts. You want to know whether the EC really, enforces these. Besides that, the mushrooming of independent presidential candidates. They are interesting. You want to find out exactly what it is that, is driving people up there. Is it a desire to, if you like, play a role in that particular office? Should everybody desire to go there? So at the end of the day, it is up to the EC to make sure that, going through the system becomes quite stringent. The EC should be able to come out and make sure that those who qualify really have met the criteria, and those who don't are simply taken out. Personally, I think the system is becoming a little unwieldy. So such a development to me is, if you like, rest assuring that we are not making it easy for everybody to present herself as a presidential candidate.
Do you doubt that those who qualified, whether independent or belonging to the minority political parties, as we put it, truly deserve to be here? Hello, Dr. Amache-Boateng. Hello, Dr. Amache-Boateng, if you can hear me. I'm asking if you've got some doubts based on what you've said. If you have doubts that those who made it truly qualified to be on the ballots.
We need to work with an understanding that we have a competent EC in place. They know what they are doing. So when they tell us that some political parties, some individuals have qualified to participate in the process, yes, they have qualified. And those who have not qualified, definitely, they haven't. I think they...
All right, we seem to have...
It's cast to, it's transparent. And so, yeah, the system has been quite transparent. So those who couldn't make it, couldn't make it. And those who have made it, we have our trust and confidence that that is exactly the situation, that the EC has done what has to be done.
But it just pulls my mind, your earlier submission, the fact that these political parties, do they really have presence in all the regions, for instance? Can they really be referred to as political parties, as in, do they qualify to be political parties in Ghana today? I'm not sure if we can ever have an answer to that. Can we?
Well, we can. You need to go to the ground and do a check. In the absence of that, you give the EC the benefit of the doubt, at this material moment.
How about the 5 others disqualified?
Sorry?
I'm asking about the 5 others disqualified. We're told about some forging signatures and so on and having been referred to the CID. There's one of the disqualified aspirants who says that he had not even been informed about all the things that the Electoral Commission had said. He didn't know that there were issues with his nomination forms, for instance.
Well, the easiest work goes through some processes. So let's see what happens afterwards. I expect those who have issues to contest, the decision of the EC. And I think it should be part of the processes. Until that is done, we want to, once again, give the EC the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it hasn't got any vested interest in getting anybody to qualify and some, out of the electoral process. To that extent, once again, we want to give the EC the benefit of the doubt and say that those who couldn't make it. They couldn't meet the criteria.
But, there are those who had said, for instance, that because of the timelines, because of COVID-19, where we are today, the EC shouldn't have even disqualified any person, just allowed all 17 to go.
That is an interesting, proposition to make. But I won't go with some such thing. If it were such a free space for anyone who would like to go in to go, I'm wondering how many people won't go in there. It really, managing such a process will simply not be wieldy. It won't go well for our system. I don't think that should be the way forward.
Do you suspect, though, that we'll have another incident of Parkwesi Ndum? And when I refer to that, I'm talking about somebody fighting it all the way through to the courts just so they can be on the ballots.
Definitely, they must qualify to be there.
How about okay, so I was just trying to find out if you expect that any of the disqualified aspirants will fight their way through, as in all the way going to the courts, like we saw with Parkwesi Ndum, for instance. Do you suspect that something like that would happen with these 5 disqualified?
I anticipate some such thing to happen. Yesterday, listening to your 6 o'clock news, one person, felt so bad, and if indeed he has any reason to suspect, some of the things that he threw out last night, then definitely he shouldn't end it there. He should let us see how things work out through the courts. Otherwise, he was just talking.
I also want your thoughts on the 3 women who have made it. Well, the only women who decided to come out, they've actually made it onto the ballot. Madam Donko, who's been aspiring to be here since 2012, finally made it to the 2020 ballots. We've got Madam Bridget Jobenuku, also there, and then of course Nana Kunedu Ajiman Rawlings. What do you make of the 3 women that we have this year?
Well, they are the flag bearers, if you like, and leading the charge in a way that encourages women, here with us in Ghana to also lift their heads up and, aspire for high political offices. I think it is good for the system.
But is it just for the show? Will they really make an impact?
Ghana will run a 2-horse race. If you really want to make an impact, you got to be in the MPP and the NDC. From 92 to date, the 2 parties have won more than 90% of the presidential elections. I mean, the votes. They've carried more than 90% of the votes. So that is it. That is the message from Ghanaians. You either join these 2 political parties to make a significant impact, or you only add to the numbers. I don't think they are going to make any significant impact.
But then you say that will also inspire others. So if they're not going to make any significant impact, then what message at all can they be sending to others who might want, to also put themselves up for election?
Their very presence to me is enough. I think leadership, is shared or distributed in the structure, the way Ghana has been structured all over the place. So you have various leadership positions in the Ghanaian political system. So finding women at that level, participating in the electoral process, at that high level, as an end in itself, will simply encourage, many women to also have this understanding that they can also make it.
We've seen, we have some independent candidates, going into this year's election, and you've described that as interesting. I wonder the message, especially when we all do agree that we have essentially the NDC and the NPP, and you must belong to either the NDC or the NDC to make some real impact. What kind of foundation is this laying for us, and would this change the narrative going forward?
People have been talking about the need for a third force. It should come from Ghanaians. And if Ghanaians want such a third force, this will manifest in the outcome of the presidential elections. For now, I say that it's only a talk. I don't think Ghanaians are, are in for such a development. Until that, you want to say that politics actually, is moved by interest. So the emergence of several independent candidates, you want to find out their political purposes. What is it that they want to do? Is it really to, if you like, drive the national developmental agenda forward, or they have other interests? You want to find out. Some of them have not come out clearly, in terms of their contribution to policies, so that you can really understand what is it that they have as their political ideology, what is driving them, that sort of mental image they have for Ghana. And in absence of that, you want to keep your fingers crossed and wonder what it is that is driving them. Why are they prepared to spend so much money? And at the end of the day, they are not going to get the minimum number of votes that will qualify, that will enable them at least get their money refunded, even if they don't win. It means that they lose this amount of money anytime they participate in the process. Okay, for example, you want to find out, who and who are supporting her. How does she come by the amount of money that the EC, set? All these things are interesting.
Well, she has said, for instance, has said that she started saving after the 2016 election. So she got enough money so she could pay for the filing fee. She's ready for this. She's always wanted to be president. There was a debate that we organized in collaboration with Imani Africa not too long ago for the independent candidates and also for the
that she has got large cocoa farms, and that is okay. But you want to wonder whether you want to spend your own money this way. You lose it, you come in, what at all are the gains that she makes? To me, this is significant because the money is huge. She's not going to get the money back. And yet, she keeps coming back. What is behind that? Why is that the situation? She's going to lose this money. Is it her own money? Is she really prepared to spend her own money that way? I'm interested in answers to these questions.
Well, I was hoping that you could supply us with some answers. It's not just Sekou Donko, but we've seen other minority political parties who keep going as well, who don't make the 12.5, and so they don't get their monies refunded in the end. But if you have any answers to share with us?
For now, no. But I still keep my interest alive, as far as these issues are concerned.
All right, sir. We'll leave it here. Thank you so much for your thoughts this morning. That's
most welcome.
All right, that's Dr. Amachi Boateng there sharing his thoughts with us on the back of this announcement that 12 candidates have now been confirmed to be on the ballot with 5 disqualified. Well, Joy News Imani Africa brought the debates of the independent candidates and also the minority parties. Winston Amwa is deputy head of our political desk. He joins us from Tamale en route to Boko for the Joy ballot box. But of course, since we organize that debate, it will be good to get some thoughts in terms of those who were on that stage and those who have been able to make it on the ballot. Winston, A very good morning to you. How's Tamale looking this morning?
Well, so we just got to Tamale not even more than 5 minutes ago, and so I'm yet to get into Tamale to see how Tamale is looking like. But the weather feels good. Doesn't feel so hot. Feels a bit cool. So I'm okay.
We organized the minority political parties debates and for the independent parties as well. Disappointed that not all of them made it onto the ballots?
Well, you can say that, but Mamavi, the other challenge also is that once you're filling forms, there's a likelihood that not all of them would make it. We would have loved it to have everybody on the ballot because, these persons came up with brilliant ideas, and I'm sure Ghanaians were willing to see what they could offer once they're given the chance to contest. For instance, they're talking about Kofi Kwanting, who was in that particular debate. Mari Kofi Gan was also in that debate, and you were expecting these men to actually make it for, onto the ballot paper. Mari Kofi Gan is given an indication that he was going to look at possible ways of resolving it. So, for all those persons who were expecting to see him, they may be disappointed, but the process may not be exhausted yet, as he says. I certainly would have loved to see him campaigning and telling us all the things he could do, because he had always indicated that, look, part of the challenge was the fact that, if you're not on the ballot paper yet, there are a lot of things you can't say you will do, and he was waiting for that opportunity to tell us what he will do.
Then there was also the minority parties. We've got a significant number of them also making it onto the ballots, Winston.
Exactly. I mean, for the minority parties that took part in our debate, the Convention People's Party, the People's National Convention, the Independent People's Party, All People's Congress, and the Progressive People's Party, all of them made it. So that's the good news. All those who took part in that particular debate organized by Imani and Joynies made it and will be contesting come December 7th. Others who didn't make it, I mean, the likes of the UFP and UPP, and these are parties that have one or two issues, the UPP breaking away from the UFP. So, I don't know, the Electoral Commission has indicated that they failed to meet the requirements, but my joy is the fact that for those who engaged in the debate, all of them from the minority party side qualified to contest in the election.
I think for a lot of people, they were hearing these people, particularly the independent candidate, also the minority political parties, the much smaller ones, make their visions known on a larger platform. There were people who were paying a lot more attention to them during that debate that we organized together with Imani Africa. I wonder how you think they can carry the message forward from there. Now we know their vision. We know that they're very passionate about the country. They all want to be president. I guess the confirmation by the Electoral Commission also affirms that. But how do they carry that forward?
I heard Dr. Machibating make the point, and I mean, raising concerns or questions about how Ekadonko was, for instance, able to raise funds. The thing about politics, Mamavi, as all of us would know, is that it's a very expensive venture. And so many of these persons may not be able to, go around the whole country. And that's why the Constitution, taxed the state broadcasters to ensure that all these political parties are giving equal coverage. Okay, of course, all of us would play our role. We have played our role. That is what I see as one of the main, thing that they could do in being able to send their message across. Look, the challenge is it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you have that money, you go ahead. But you ask yourself also, what is the membership of these political parties? I mean, what are the dues that they pay, monthly? And so would they be able to spend millions of Ghana cedis going around to campaign? If Amachi Boateng is raising concerns about Ekadonko's ability to pay 100,000 Ghana cedis, which I think is, being unfair to the woman, because look, if you're a farmer, if you're a cocoa farmer as she is, she should be able to raise 100,000 Ghana cedis to farm. The question is, would she be able to raise enough funds to campaign? Well, the Constitution or our laws do not prevent any individual or entity from supporting. You have to be a Ghanaian to support political parties as they get ready for elections. So the question is, do they have some financiers? Maybe they do, maybe they do not. But there's also the conversation about electionpreneurship. People don't always contest elections because they want to win elections. For some, it's self-actualization. For some, it's an indication that I'm a person of integrity. You can trust me. I am known in my country. And that becomes the avenue for doing business. these persons who are seeking to put themselves out there, are they doing that because they genuinely want to be president, or they're doing that also for their self-actualization purposes or business purposes? Years ago when I spoke to Dr. Edward Maham, one of the things he said was, look, he was always contesting, not because he knows he will win, but he also wants to bring about policy alternatives. Okay, so he says, look, I said we could do school feeding years ago. Eventually it was done. I said we could do a free hot chocolate for students. It's been considered. It's been done. So for me, the joy is the fact that I bring about policy alternatives. So that probably could be the reason some of these persons may want to contest.
Yeah, well, thanks, Winston, for that. But you're on your way to Boko for the Joy ballot box. What's the? I guess it's the fact that we also know those who actually be on the ballot also sets a good context for us for this edition of the ballot box. But explain to us what will be happening in Boko.
Well, so Mamavi, in Boko, Boko is like at the center of 3 constituencies. So you have Boko, you have Zebila, and then you have Garu. And so all these constituencies are going to be showing up at the Boko Community Center on Friday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. What we seek to do is to first find out from the electors, those who will be voting come December 7th, what will be influencing the choices they make, okay? So we're going to put the ballot boxes at vantage points, and then they will tell us, they will write these things. We will do the collation once we're done with the collation. We go out there, put the questions to them, and they would answer the questions. And the electors will then be able to make a choice as to who would best represent their interests.
And I know because of COVID-19, we're also taking all the necessary precautions. So
Exactly.
How do we want them to actually send their messages across?
No, so, and that is, I mean, I like the bit about COVID-19. When we went to Hohor, we ensured that there was strict adherence to the COVID-19 protocols, the social distancing, wearing of masks, and ensuring that we had Veronica buckets and hand sanitizers that people were able to wash their hands with soap. The point is that because of COVID-19, that's when this even becomes more important. Because of COVID-19, you wouldn't have many people turning up for political rallies, and people would even be scared of meeting lots of people. So this presents you the opportunity to actually listen to your aspirants tell you the reasons why you should vote for them. And it's not only going to be you, the whole country will be listening. And as you debate, so in many of the instances, you have one person coming and another person coming. You don't have the opportunity of this person saying, no, but you can't do this because I think mine is better. You get me? So that advantage is what we present, and that is the more reason why it's a must watch and it's a must listen.
All right. Well, Winston, we'll leave it here. Allow you to settle, at least do something in Tamale. And then when you settle in Boko, we will be touching base with you throughout until the ballot box comes up on Friday. But just a quick reminder, who are the aspirants participating in this ballot box?
Let me just, I need to, pick my list and give them to you. And I'm just touching down. So once I do that, then I'll let you know.
All right. Okay, that's Winston Amwa. He's deputy head of our political desk on his way from Tamale now to Boko. We just got him as soon as he landed in Tamale. So plenty more conversations on the ballot box. Stay with us for that. But one of our funding partners for the ballot box, Star Ghana Foundation, has been speaking. They get a lot of their funding, well, not a lot, all their funding from Europe mainly. And the COVID-19 has hit hard on their funding partners. This has led to some cuts. They've cut down on projects. They're still very passionate about funding election projects to give a voice to the voiceless in particular. I sat down recently with the executive director of Star Ghana Foundation, Alhaji Tanko. Here's the conversation.
We are likely to be working with not more than 10.
Wow.
Yeah, at both.
Wow.
But we hope that the 4 would enable us, the 10 would enable us to drill deeper, to go deeper on the issues.
How painful is it reducing 26 to about 10?
Well, it's painful at all levels because all the 26 that we're supporting are very interesting projects and have something to contribute to the ultimate objective of
for your time. You're arguably, in terms of Star Ghana and Star Ghana Foundation, one of the biggest spenders when it comes to elections with regards election-related activities to get citizens active ahead of the elections and during and after the elections. I wonder how much of a blow COVID-19 has hit in terms of your activities. So perhaps, first of all, let's go through the calendar for this year's election.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and a pleasure to be here. Star Ghana has been supporting civil society and in some cases election management bodies around, the elections, post-election transition since 2012. We supported the 2012 elections, including the presidential debates. We supported actions around the Supreme Court adjudication, and, awareness creation, conflict prevention, etc. We supported 2016, including the debates and the evening encounters, and we are supporting the 2020. But the scale of funding, the number of organizations has dipped, partly because of the impact of COVID on the funding available to us. But also, COVID has affected the timelines for implementation. During the lockdown, all our activities ceased, and then most of the projects are rushing to catch up because the election funding is not just on election day, but we have the the election itself, and then the post.
Okay. So how much of a difference is 2020, I mean, apart from COVID, in terms of the activities, because obviously we've come a long way.
Yes.
What was supposed to be different about 2020 if you compare it to 2012 and 2016?
Well, I think each election has its own dynamics. And I think, so for 2012, for example, part of the focus was on inclusion, getting the voices and participation of excluded social groups, women, young people, persons with disabilities. So we're looking at the accessibility ramps, we're looking at the tactile ballots, etc. 2016 had a different focus. And for 2020, I think the overriding concerns have been one, around the issue of vigilantism or anti-vigilantism, conflict prevention. It has been around the issue of getting more women and persons with disability as political actors, not just in terms of voters or citizens. And then there's the whole issue around, having two a former president, a certain president contesting each other, and how that plays out. So those have been the kinds of dynamics.
So in all, how many projects, for instance, were you funding?
Okay. So for 2020, we started with 26 projects: media, civil society, faith-based organizations, etc. And the funding for the first phase was £750,000. The first phase ran from, I think, October 2019.
Okay.
And ended in July 2020.
Okay.
The second phase starts in September 2020 and ends in February 2021. However, following COVID, the impact on the donor countries, the re-strategizing by our main donor, UK, in terms of their priorities and etc., the quantum of funding for the election 2020 for the second phase has reduced from 750,000 to 250,000 pounds. Wow. So almost 150,000.
That's a drastic reduction.
150% cut. And so we've had to re-strategize. We will no longer be able to continue with the 26 projects into the phase 2. And we need to scale down. So our work would primarily focus in this second phase on one, anti-vigilantism and conflict prevention. 2, the citizens' engagement with the candidates. So we're looking at the presidential debates. We're looking at some of the work we're doing with the media around the ballot box, for example, reporting on conditions in the deprived areas. The third area would be on the elections monitoring. So our work with CODEO, you know, pre and post and during and post the elections. And then the fourth area would be around the post-election transition. So those are the areas we focus. So from 26 partners, we are likely to be working with not more than 10.
Wow.
Yeah, at both.
Wow.
But we hope that the 4 would enable us, the 10 would enable us to drill deeper, so to go deeper on the issues.
How painful is it reducing 26 to about 10?
Well, it's painful at all levels because all the 26 that we're supporting are very interesting projects and have something to contribute to the ultimate objective of credible, transparent, and peaceful elections. So to have to cut some of that out means making some choices and decisions that which one should I cut and etc. But I think at the partner level, some of the partners had set up for 1 year, 1.5 year projects, maybe have recruited staff and etc. And then suddenly, bam, we have to cut, but we don't have any. Just before this interview, I was actually sending a mail out to the partners to tell them that get ready.
That's painful.
Yes.
But I guess because of COVID-19, most of them would be expecting this anyway.
Yes, yes. And most of them were also a bit behind in implementation because during the lockdown, nothing could happen. Post the election, post the lockdown, we tried not to take the national attention away from the immediate response to COVID. And so we asked our partners to kind of hold on the contentious issues and see how we can mobilize the whole country around confronting COVID.
I remember describing Star Ghana, not the foundation, as a basket where partners would contribute into it and then you would in turn also distribute what you get. Explain where you get your funding from.
Okay, so the Star Ghana program is a basket fund. Basket fund meaning that a number of donors put their money into a basket and then contracts a service provider to manage it on their behalf. So if in the previous situation, multimedia may be reporting to both the EU, Danida, DFID, but under the basket fund, you report to us and we report to the donors, you know. So for the phase 1 of the Star Ghana program, we had the USAID, DFID, UK, that's Danida, and then the EU. For the second phase, we had the DFID, EU, and Danida funding the program. Our elections call is funded by DFID and the European Union. Danida has dropped out.
Okay. I didn't hear any local partners. I haven't heard any local partners partnering with the Star Ghana Foundation, for instance.
Exactly. And I think that given the choices that we've had to make, given the centrality of credible and peaceful elections for our whole development, I think it's a pity that such work is funded by outsiders, in quotes, even if we describe them as our development partners. Some of these areas that are critical to our development need to be funded locally. Locally in the sense that even if it is 10 cedis, you text 1 cedi, 5 cedis, etc., it helps, you know. And so one of the key objectives of the Star Ghana Foundation is really to promote active citizenship and local philanthropy. So we are trying to see how we can pilot some ways of supporting our local development initiatives. Because whether we like it or not, post-COVID, we aren't going to go back to the earlier or the status quo where development partners were putting in money and etc. I mean, we weren't going to that. So how to do that? And we do have examples of local philanthropy that we can build on and to use that to support, our efforts towards inclusive development.
Because we're here, for instance, with the reduction in how much you're spending, cutting from 700 to about 200 and something, mainly because the partners are Europeans.
Yes.
And COVID also hit them really hard.
Exactly.
They're still recovering.
Yes.
And they're having to deal with a second leg of even the COVID-19.
Exactly.
So obviously they'll be looking at their countries first before they extend the hand to ours.
Yes.
So it's important that we also begin to do something.
Extremely.
But we're also battling with the COVID, even here in Ghana.
Yes. So the Star Ghana Foundation is currently supporting 8 strategic partners around COVID response and recovery. Response, looking at the immediate responses, mitigating the impacts on vulnerable groups and etc. Recovery, looking at, so what should we do about education? What should we do about the health systems? First, to cope with future pandemics, but also to ensure that some people are not left out. Because if you take the education system, there's a movement towards the incorporation of online learning, teaching and learning. But that discriminates against children from poor backgrounds, children from communities that do not have access to internet, and so that you are immediately, deepening the inequality. You've seen pictures carried in the media of some communities where people have to climb trees in order to get, access for telephone calls. So what are the implications and what do we need to do? COVID has changed forever how the education and health systems will, function. We can either take that as given or proactively seek to influence the conversations and etc. So Star Ghana is providing support on that. But again, the support is coming from DFID and the European Union. And again, we're saying that let's see what models there are that we can develop to assess, for us to contribute, even if it is 1 cedi each, to say, look, we take 1 cedi into a fund that is used to mitigate. And we have demonstrated over 10 years of managing more than $70 million of donor grants that the foundation is a credible, institution. It has the wherewithal and the capacity to manage this, and its ability to account, and so how we do that. I know there's a healthy mistrust of, CSOs in general. So how do we ensure that the accounts for the monies, how do we ensure that the money doesn't end up in the purchase of 4-wheel drives, whatever. And so that's what I'm saying, that we need to test models where the donation is for a specific purpose and the accountability mechanisms are clearly agreed upon. And I was mentioning to you before we came on air that we're even looking at, the lynching, the violence against women in the name of witchcraft and etc. That if we close the homes and the communities are not yet willing to accept them, or a woman feels threatened and has to be moved out of the community, where does she go? So can we put money together and set up, safe holding centers that, a woman who is threatened can, be moved to whilst the police, etc., seek to resolve it. That is a very specific project. The results will be tangible for everybody to see, and the accountability will not be. So we're not going to be asking people to fund fluffy, vague distance or help to improve empowerment or whatever, but very specific things that we can do.
Okay. So how hard, when it comes to the general picture, have you been hit because of COVID?
COVID, okay.
Yes.
I think when I speak and I say we, I'll be referring to not just the foundation, but civil society in general. And I think civil society has been hard hit. So starting from Star Ghana Foundation, COVID has seen, or the impact of COVID has seen a reduction, a very significant reduction in the amount of money available for the projects that we're implementing, mainly the elections and the COVID response projects. For wider civil society, the impact has been, one, the drying up of funds, but secondly, for some of the donors, some didn't cut funding, but they reprogrammed funds. So if they gave you maybe 1 million cedis to work on, gender issues, then they ask you to reprogram or repurpose the 1 million and commit that to COVID activities. So we've seen a shifting of priorities away from equally important issues to a focus on COVID. And
what's the danger there?
The danger is that the other problems don't run out; they don't disappear because of COVID. Malaria has not disappeared. Cholera has not disappeared. We saw what happened with the CSM. But for the fact that CSOs and the media took it up, it was almost going under the radar. And yet, more people were even dying of CSM in the private areas. So the impact has been that we sweep some of the issues under the carpet, focus on COVID, and by the time our attention turns to those ones, the issues may have been compounded. So for Star Ghana, I think there's the issue one of the reduction of funding. There is the issue of adjusting to the new protocols. So you cannot bring people together as you used to. And yet most of the constituency we've been working with have been people in the communities who do not have access to Zoom and Teams and Blue Jeans and the other.
Who cannot even social distance.
Exactly, so how do you work with them? And that might affect also the way you're able to mobilize them to take action on issues that affect them. So those are the three areas that were affected: the funding, the repurposing or reprogramming away from equally important areas, and then the ways of working, where we tend to disadvantage communities and social groups that do not have access to internet or cannot social distance,
Okay. What's the Ghana Foundation's focus right now?
I think we continue to focus on contributing towards credible, peaceful, and inclusive elections. So, peaceful, the work on anti-vigilantism, conflict prevention, and resolution. And so we're doing that at the national level and, a few of the hotspots, including the monitoring of the use of incendiary language and etc. that we've done right from 2012 in partnership with the media and other organizations. We're looking at citizens' engagement with the candidates to ensure a focus on the issues. So we're working with GBC, the National Commission for an NCC, and a number of partners to see if we can first organize the presidential and vice presidential debates.
Okay.
And also the evening encounters, where you have one-on-one encounters between the presidential candidates and, citizens, whether in a studio or wherever. And the third, looking at, engagements with candidates at the parliamentary level, building on what we're doing with multimedia, TV3, and the others.
Okay. What we've done recently with Imani Africa is also to put a focus on the independent candidates and those that don't have that massive support like the NDC and the NPP.
Yes. And then the third one is that, we focus on the voting, the elections, but we tend to lose sight of what I'll call the environmental issues, in quotes, the ecosystem around which the elections are conducted. Campaign financing has gone crazy. It disadvantages poor people. It's, shifts the focus around the best candidates to the ones with the deep pockets. So that's one area. the transitions, despite the fact that we have a Transitions Act, think of a transition that hasn't been marred by all these things about people have taken cars, this thing has happened, the handover, and etc. What do we do about that? The third area, elections management. We've seen the way in which the changes in the leadership of the EC played out. You know, is there anything that can be done about it? What other constitutional issues need to be done? So we'll be convening dialogues.
Okay.
So those will not be projects with partners, but dialogues across the length and breadth of the country on these issues. We've just completed one on the campaign financing. We had dialogues in Tamale, in Kumasi, in Cape Coast, and then we had the Accra one.
Are we close to finding a solution?
Well, I don't think the solution would come like this because the vested interests are too many. But once we keep that conversation on the front burner, we should be able to mobilize enough citizens to demand action. Because some of the candidates are hurting, but they can't come out to say we are hurting. But I think if citizens see this is not the election that we want, why should maybe 200 people choose a candidate that maybe 1 million people will be voting for? You know, how do we reform those ones? So election campaign finance, it looks simple, but it has ramifications in all areas. But we need to have those conversations. So we will be having convenings or we'll be hosting convenings on these issues, possibly in partnership with the media. And
great. Just wanted to say that you should be happy with the manifestos, at least right now. The focus is not on insults, at least. We've got issues, real issues that we can talk about and make comparisons. The only issue with that, I guess, for some of us is the manifesto has become the national development plan, and it's a political party's manifesto. So where does that leave the national development plan itself? I guess maybe going forward, that's also another area that you can pay attention to.
We are working with the University of Ghana Law School, hosting a series of webinars around, you know, the elections. We had one on the manifestos. I think there's another one on campaign finance. We've also worked with the Northern Development Forum to look at how they can influence the manifestos to also focus on the issues of inequality and etc. So that's what we're doing in that area. But I think the manifestos, one area again is for citizens to pay attention. One is in the development of the manifestos, but a second is the accountability for the manifestos. When you win, do you get to pick and choose which parts of the manifesto, or we can hold you accountable? You know, so there are all these conversations that we want to facilitate around.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for sitting with us.
My pleasure, yes.
Welcome back on the AM show. And of course, I'm sure you enjoyed that insight-filled discussion, of course, with Star Ghana. Quite some dynamics there, especially as we approach election 2020. It's time now, though, for our special feature for you on this Tuesday morning. And a number of people have lost their livelihoods due to the construction of the Bui Dam. For our feature today, let's take you to the Banda district in the Bono region for a look at how the youth in Bui, Bator and Akanyakrom, as well as Dokochina, make ends meet.
Clouds clearing, insects humming, buzzing, swarming, dogs and sheep away. It is 5:30 a.m. here in the community of Bui in the Banda district of the Bono region. Meet 22-years-old Abigail Nanimochi as she gets ready to step out to make ends meet. She was orphaned at age 6, and her only support, an older brother, also died when she turned 17.
Through my life story, my mama in 5 years' time, she died. My father, 1 year later, he also followed. So I suffered a lot. My brother was taking care of me. I went to SS. But 1 year when I completed, he also died. So I was in the house doing nothing.
Abigail is keeping alive her hope of becoming a medical doctor.
I was hoping to be a doctor in future. Yeah. Because through my SS, I did home economics. To become a person in future was a doctor. Yeah, and unfortunately, I couldn't make it. Yeah, because of financial problems. So I was in the house taking care of myself.
She gets mixed feelings at the sight of anything that looks like a happy family.
I'm not having a mother or a father to even wish her a happy Mother's Day. Yeah. Or normally when I see so many people with their mothers or their parents, I become happy like having my own, but I'm not having. Yeah. I always cry. Because if at times you need something, if your mother is not even having, she'll force and give it to you. And as now I'm not having, you cannot go to someone's mother to tell the person that, oh, give me this or I need this. Yeah, so I always remember my mother. Yeah.
To make ends meet and also save towards her goals, Abigail joined the Nyame Adom cleaning services, one of the economic empowerment programs initiated by the Bui Authority BPA, which is aimed at enabling beneficiaries who are from the settlement communities to fend for themselves and dependents. Abigail is the only female in her group.
I'm here for we are cleaning services. Yeah. Normally, they call us anywhere to go and clean or to go and do work. Yeah. But here, they say we should come here to come and grow some leaves, flowers. So that's why we are here. I'm the only girl.
How does that feel, being the only girl?
I'm happy that what men can do, a woman can do and do it better. Yeah, I'm happy. Whatever they are doing as men, I also do it. Yeah, so I'm happy that I'm the only girl in the group. We are 8 in number, and I'm the only girl. Yeah, I'm happy. Not like I'm feeling bad, I'm the only girl, I'm happy. The work, it helps me a lot. Yeah, it helps a lot. Because at the end of the month, I'll get something to take care of myself, more than the mobile money. Yeah, so it helps me. But I'm hoping that right now you people have come, we are pleading that the one we are having, they should add some little things to it, so that I'll also become happy. Yeah. Maybe the doctor or the nurse I'm telling her I wanted to be, I can also get something, also continue. Yeah.
Some of the beneficiaries of BPA's Livelihood Empowerment Initiative are Simon and Jonas. They've been sharing their stories with us.
Ajumano ebuai kakradie eno eyesin se obetina kwa ebae ama yatimi anya yeho ahwan ye kakra sede na yeho kire ye kaninu no ente saadie
ejuma no na eden na nanka wo ye ansa na ejuma we ye ba ma wa.
Okay, na me ye kuani. Me do. Okay, me do bayre and cashew.
Adentina ujai kuyayo no.
Okay, kuyayo no me nyanjai me guso a me ye. Na me ye we enso eka.
Enti ekuya no anyway. Enti we sika no ekushin wo kakra wa kwan penso.
Okay, we sika no so no etimi boa me. Kuyayo no so na matimi anya kakra afa paafu a mo boa me ewo.
Ye wa wasase a wodo so.
Okay, asase no BPF na etu yemba. Omode yemba na yo asase wo bibi omutu dada. Ena omo edi yemba na ombe kire yin ha se yenye adwuma e woso.
Sana na wudokua no ansa na ye tu mu abaha no.
Okay, na Dukachina. Na Dukachina village ena na ye wo.
Ehonso na wodua de.
Also na me do bare eni aburo ni enkatoa ni cashew.
Esi ya wodo we ye kuya no edo ebro ni cashew ni bayere no ena wosaye ejuma we nso ka ho meboa
hono na ahano na me be sa adwuma we e ka ho
nti wodi mienu ni kambo mu a abrabo ewo be Dokochina village ene aha sesia na etesen
okay me fana hono Dokochina dada hono mu de na afuo no eboa me na asase no ye by ahade asase no afuo no ya nsheda no by no nsheda enyi bayire sei odo bayire mpo afiwe na so dua na si agiso osan tobi de obeto adua no ansa na obedua bayire na nyina asai afi nso no se de wo se bayire no bono entumi mbosa ena aburo no nso so no udi asase no nso esanse asase no enye ntino ama aburo no nso enye de ntumi enye yi se de ewo se ye ba krum dada ho no de na asase no ye na asase no nso eda ho kama otumi ye de obedua so bia na ye yi na ha nso no ama kuya no abafam nti ema aha kakra ebeda ho BPF ya dawo asibebre wo dia omoaye omo aboaye die ni monu yegusu esra wonse wonkoso ara na wo hwe yedwuma no so kakra mai sede be ya ye adwuma no enso ebeko yi amai wo ye sikasem ni ye nioma
ukase ejuma na wo pache ejuma be ekuayo na se miawo ye wo hasisi
de me ye wo hasisi me stress omo be boa ye ewo ye sikasem ho kakra.
Ba yan fani se ya yan fie bebre den time na ejuma bia ni kwa like na sanyame adom BPF atima I struggle up here, you make a crab, my senior mountain, so at least yes, you know, you got credit to able to manage the boy. At least you manage there. A boy, a bumper, say like money can see, and course we had enquiring and my equanim so not be so echo come financial.
Answer na mubabe juma we not
na me ko school de wa mi wie no na ejuma bia no ha mi na me ye hwe mi na krom sa at least at times I'm quite from na me na krom sa
how ben you have them musa na ko
se en shadanti asi
okay nyama ben sa na opa wo
na we na opa ana wonya. Okay, you want to say a branch, we are branch there like at least Baby, I'm doing my idea. And papa money be providing no my be mammy, especially in your mammy. And Tina, and also help back one equity and brandian. At least also around the past, I say what me be a BBD. I think you know, higher, not scarcely my idea. I see a human about the mountain or so at least at me cracker. The torture here. What feel like papa and mammy, that's what you say. The human me in a mountain so at least almost a moon year may be a meeting cracker. The mom was near almost as it now may America mom. As I would I will make it a mountain so I'm cracker a mom so. Say family pressure no a swab from cracker. No.
In the time now, what do can they kind say a fool? Nanka perform. Inti a dear nearby would decide to be jay fool, Jumano.
Say if we man casano, so Benyaska is a season. As I'm talking, side irrigation farming and I can say man to be a Benyaska area and see how she are by any catch and I by Renaissance just a bit 8 months and Sana Abba. This 8 months, so only a Juma be a dear not the better area and I did not the better on quine. And I catch you say season I had an urban season where this is the following season and Sana Abba. And Tina, I'm a pressure or hopa. They say a Juma by the at least when I have a cracker. I made me group and go in Yamitiasi reading group.
Yamitiasi reading group.
And Yamitiasi reading landscaping and then fire control.
Okay, Yamitiasi reading landscaping and fire control.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you passing?
But we're in 5.
All right, okay, but that's why. So Henry here is a member of the Nyamitias Weeding and Landscaping as well as the fire control group. He says that he's been working here for the past 4 months. He talks about how he used to be a farmer and he stopped farming because the farming here is seized down. He's saying that they don't have irrigation farming, and so because of that, it makes it difficult for them to sustain their families. He touched on the fact that he's able to support his family. He is assured of monthly payments or monthly salaries because of the farming work he does here. So we're going to engage other people who are also benefiting from this livelihood empowerment initiative by BPA. So stay tuned in.
Has been our daily feature in the Bui Dam, Akenya Krom and Dokachina areas with the economic activities going on there. It's time now for roving on the AM show. We connect with some students of the University of Ghana. Our man, Manuel Kranting, is on the beat, and he's going to be telling us about how they feel with regard to, the tertiary education session or educational session being pushed to next year. The University of Ghana was gearing up to resume activities, but it appears that has all been thrown away. Let's connect now with Manuel Kranting on Roving.
Of His Excellency the President Akufo-Addo directed, among other things, that universities are to remain closed until January 2021. Essentially, the new academic year, which was supposed to have started regularly in September 2020, is now supposed to start in January 2021. For many stakeholders within the tertiary education space, it's a bit of mixed reactions. But what do the students think? For them who are supposed to sit at home without any sort of engagement academically for about 5 months, what is their opinion about that directive? Are they welcoming it, or they think that the president should come again with a reviewed directive? Well, Kelly, Kabuki, and Ebo are going to tell me what they think about it. Let me start with you, Kabuki. You're supposed to stay at home until January 2021. That leaves what about when did you finish your other academic year?
In July.
In July. So July, August, September, that's 5 months to January. I mean, how are you receiving it?
I think when I was at home,
it was really sad because I was virtually not doing anything. So I have to sit in the house and be waiting till the president comes to say that we'll be resuming school. I think it makes students too idle when they're in the house, and as the saying goes, the devil finds work for the idle man. So I think it's not a good initiative by the president to tell us that we should stay in the house from today till December, and the coming January we'll be coming back to school. It's going to make students agitated. When are they going to resume school? How are they going to fare if they are in the house? And what are they going to do now that they are in the house? Some students may have other side businesses, but majority of the students are just home. They are not doing anything. So what the president is going to really make students feel lost, because at the end of the day they are not going to do something such as academic work to occupy their mind.
So your point is that we're going to lose touch with the classroom work, and you may get a bit dormant. But Kelly, tell me, she says that was not a good thing, but people say what, given the fact that the universities are built in such a way that the people sleep 4 in a room, 3 in a room, and so on. All of these things put together exposes a lot of, the students potentially to COVID-19. That's a reason that you're having to stay till January, when it's a bit clearer.
Yeah, as my colleague Kabuki rightly said, this decision is far-fetched because we don't know what the future holds. What we have is the present, so we act based on what we have now, and we can't say that by January 2021 COVID-19 cases would have been lower than it is now. We can't say that by January 2021 it would have been higher. But then we are looking at analysis, and from analysis, other countries are having a shot up in cases. It doesn't mean that the fact that Ghana is having a low active case rate right now, that means that by January 2021 we will have a relatively lower case as we have now. And as she rightly said, tertiary students are home right now, and we don't have any. I mean, personally, I'm a French student, and I don't remember the last time I spoke French. And I'm not going to speak French till next year, January 2021. So I'm really struggling on how I'll catch up with the French, because French is a language, and I'm supposed to be speaking it all the time. But yeah, in Ghana here, not many people speak French. The only time I get to speak French is when I'm on campus with my friends. And so I'm still wondering how I'll get back on track January 2021 when we come back to school. And with the issue of hostels, people sleeping 4 in a room and all that, I think that is also an issue we should tackle. But because when you go to the boarding houses in SHS right now, when the Form 3s went and the Form 2s are going now, I personally went there to see how their sleeping conditions were, and it was like the same thing while we were in SHS, like the same way. Just the fact that the beds are now spaced.
And again, you're just having one stream, just JHS and SHS 2 students away from the 3 that you have. So I mean, there's more space, and so you're unable to compare what you have in SHS to what you potentially have in the universities if everybody comes back to school.
Yes, but then when the president spoke yesterday night, he didn't specify whether when we reopen school next year, January 21, it's going to be all levels that are going to come. In Legon here like this, we had a modular system where level 200s and 400s would come this year to the ending. The next year, level 100s and 300s would come. And even that, I think it's a good decision because, as you said, 4 in a room, if we have a spacious event like this, we are going to have like 2 people in a room, like when it was level 400s that were only in school. But then next year, the possibility of everybody coming to school is very high. And so we are going to have this misregard for social distancing and all that, judging from the fact that we might have a skyrocketing cases or not. So this decision that the president has made, I think it's far-fetched and it should be reviewed.
You think it should be reviewed? Talk to me about whether or not it should be reviewed. You have quite a number of activities. So conferences are about to be going on without any capping numbers. Churches are operating without a capping numbers, and quite a number of other activities that essentially border on gatherings and so on are doing so without a cap, but universities are supposed to stay at home.
Well, so Manuel, I feel the president's decision, well, first of all,
when I heard it, I was surprised because I didn't really understand the science behind allowing churches to operate in full capacity and allowing even schools, JHS and SHS, to students to go back to schools who are relatively, if you ask me, less mature as compared to university students, and their numbers are relatively higher than university students, and to go back to school without any fear for COVID-19 and then say, well, tertiary institutions are supposed to remain home up to 2021. When I heard it, of course, I found it quite disturbing, especially when we've been at home for quite a long time, if you ask me. Well, we closed down schools in March, even though we had online studies then. It wasn't, a lot of people weren't so enthused about the idea of online studies, and so it was basically the same thing as staying at home. And then you are going to, management, for instance, like Kelly noted, had proposed to run a double-track system, which would have been effective, if you ask me, especially when it comes to managing COVID-19 spread in the universities. And so it was quite worrying. But let me play the devil's advocate and say that to some extent it's good for homes who are struggling financially, because we know that when COVID-19 struck, a lot of businesses were badly affected. Parents lost their jobs, and so this will give them ample time to find their feet and then be able to pay the fees of their wards whilst they are at home and not paying any fees till January 2021. So it's good on one hand, and it's I mean, for the ordinary student, those who are in a mad rush to come back to school, they may feel it's not good. But I think to some extent it may help parents who have been struggling to find their feet in COVID-19 especially.
But really, talk to me about the impact on the academic work. You talked about that modular system that University of Ghana was going to run. You're going to have cramped everything into 6 weeks or so for the first semester. Now you're having to put everything, the first semester and second semester, in next year, which perhaps would mean that you're going to cut down on, inter-semester breaks, and you'd have to put everything together. When you look at it that way, is that not too much of a toll? More like, deferring the pressure that you would have felt now as students trying to learn through the pandemic to next year?
Well, so when the management proposed this modular system, the double-track system, it also came with some restrictions when it comes to the number of weeks you are supposed to even study in school, and a lot of people were agitating already. And so it's true that to say that we are putting everything, we are shifting everything to next year, that would mean it will be relatively lesser, even with the 2020 academic year, which was supposed to resume in October, and then academic classes beginning in November. We felt that the time frame, the duration for academic activities was not enough, and so to push it to January would mean that it would become even shorter. And so yes, it also has going to have its own toll on academics. It's going to put a lot of pressure on students and lecturers as well to be able to complete a course in a few weeks, let's say a 13-week course in, let's say, 9 weeks or 6 weeks. I think